Bar Rules Series. Trust.
Trusts. A trust is a relationship in which a trustor gives a trustee the right to hold legal title to property under a fiduciary duty to manage trust assets for the benefit of a designated beneficiary. Formation. To create a valid trust, there must be 1. A manifestation of an intent to create a trust. 2. Trust res. Property. 3. A trust purpose. And 4. An identifiable beneficiary. 5. There must be a trustee, but one can be appointed by the court. Types. Express trust. An express trust may be created inter vivos by the settlor. Testamentary. A testamentary trust is created by a will, which contains the material provisions. The trust is created upon the death of the testator. Secret trust. Semi-secret trust. A secret trust arises when a will makes an absolute gift, but the devotee secretly agrees to hold the property in trust for a third party. If proven, a constructive trust is imposed to prevent unjust enrichment. A semi-secret trust arises when a will states a trust exists but fails to identify the beneficiary or purpose. It fails for lack of definiteness and becomes a resulting trust in favor of the estate. Resulting trust. A resulting trust is an implied in fact trust, based upon the presumed intent of the parties. A purchase money resulting trust is created when a beneficiary pays consideration for the purchase of property but allows title to be taken in the name of another. The other party is presumed to be the trustee, holding title for the beneficiary's benefit. A constructive trust is an equitable remedy in which the defendant is deemed to hold the property for the benefit of the plaintiff. To qualify, the plaintiff must trace the unjust enrichment to the purchase of property obtained by the defendant. If granted, the plaintiff becomes the owner of the property and shares in the appreciation in value. Spendthrift. A spendthrift trust is one in which the beneficiary cannot alienate their interest. It protects the beneficiary from their own financial irresponsibility and from most creditors. Generally, creditors cannot reach the trust assets to satisfy the beneficiary's debts. However, there are limited exceptions, including claims for necessities, child or spousal support obligations, tax claims by the government, charitable trust. A charitable trust is a trust which has a charitable purpose that benefits society, and a charitable entity as the beneficiary. Under the Cypress doctrine, when the original purpose cannot be fulfilled, a similar charitable purpose closest to the settlor's intent may be substituted. Trust administration. Trustee powers. The trustee has powers expressly enumerated in the trust, including the implied powers necessary to perform duties such as contracting, selling, leasing, or transferring the trust property. Duties. The trustee has a fiduciary duty to the beneficiaries. Account. Must inform beneficiaries of income and expenses. Duty not to delegate. Traditionally, trustees could not delegate discretionary duties. Modernly, delegation is allowed with due care in selection, instruction, and supervision. Duty of impartiality. Impartial when dealing with beneficiaries and remaindermen, which have competing interests. Duty of care. Act as a reasonably prudent person in trust affairs. Duty of segregation. Keep trust funds separate from own. Duty of loyalty. Trustee must manage the trust solely in the best interests of the beneficiaries. No self-dealing and avoid conflicts of interest. Duty of care in investment. A trustee has a duty to diversify investments to protect trust assets, and must investigate investments and evaluate risk in the context of the entire trust portfolio. Defend. Defend actions against trust. Enforce. Enforce claims of trust property. Liabilities of trustee. A trustee is personally liable for violating trustee duties. torts against third parties, and contracts made within scope of trust supervision. Removal of trustee. A court may remove a trustee if retaining the trustee would frustrate the purpose of the trust or if the trustee has breached a fiduciary duty. Allocation of assets. Beneficiaries obtain the income generated by trust assets. Remaindermen receive the principal from the net proceeds on the sale of the asset. Trustee's best judgment. The trustee may use their best judgment to modify the allocation to achieve the purpose of the trust. Modification. Under the majority rule, a settlor may modify or revoke a trust only if the power to do so is expressly reserved in the terms of the trust. In California, trusts are revocable unless stated otherwise. Courts may modify, si pres, to achieve the purpose of trust or to meet settlor's intent. Termination. A trustee has no power to terminate unless expressly stated in the trust. The settlor may terminate the trust if the power is reserved in the trust. Beneficiaries may compel termination if 1. They all agree and 2. Termination does not frustrate the purpose of the trust. Courts may terminate a trust for frustration of purpose, impossibility, illegality, or changed circumstances.